please remember to leave a like, a comment, share the video about, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Thank you. I have no doubt in my mind every single one of you knows who Jussie Smalltits is. Sorry, Jussie Smollett. Smollett? Whatever. Jussie. We're going to call him Jussie. We always have called him Jussie, and we will forever in perpetuity call him Jussie. He has featured on this channel because he faked a hate crime. He cost the city of Chicago hundreds of thousands of dollars. He tanked his entire career trying to use a lie to get ahead because he wanted to earn more money from the TV show he was on, which was a good show. He could have continued to make money on that show for as long as the show ran, had he not opened his mouth and lied. There is an entire playlist on this channel concerning Jussie, and annually, I typically make a Where Are They Now on him, and this is one of them. Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of Where Are They Now? Smash the like. Today we're going to be taking a look at a recent news thingamajiggy-doodah what's-it concerning Jussie, because we haven't really heard much in the way of what's been going on in his life for a while. He has featured this year though, because he's tried to dip his toes into things here and there. I believe within exhibitions of stupid people. He's become more of a director, and he's managed to get people on his side to an extent, but let's face it, regardless of any outcome concerning recent news, which we will get to soon, it is unlikely Jussie Smalltits' career will ever reach the echelons it had when he starred on Empire. Again, that was a really good show, and he was making a lot of money for every episode. At his peak, up to $125,000 per episode. For this role, it was believed he made close to $7 million. So he was in a position where he could arguably be set for life, but then don't forget he has to pay fees, taxes, blah 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 blah. But still, life-changing money. A lot of which he's thrown away, as well as throwing away any chance of earning decent income for future jobs. This is 5 years in the making, as it were, for a conclusion to the entire saga. It could be argued it's not completely ended just yet, but for the sake of it, I don't see a reason why it could continue. If you don't know, I'm now going to give you the very short Cliff's Notes. On the 29th of January 2019, Jussie Smalltits called the Chicago police because of a suspected racist and homophobic attack on him by two masked men. He claimed they referenced MAGA, he wore a noose when the police turned up. Turns out, it was two dudes, Cosendeo brothers, who actually one I believe had a relationship-ish of some kind of liaison at the very least with Jussie. They were paid to do it. It was nothing to do with MAGA, but he had latched onto that because he wanted more money from Empire. Raising his name? Yeah, nah. He had refused to hand over evidence, including his phone, when the police suspected he might have set this up. Celebrities had initially jumped to his defense. Eventually it all came out that no, he's not in fact the gay Tupac. No, he is an absolute fraud. He owed the Chicago police over $100,000, and he was initially, after much wrangling and hassle, sentenced to prison, where he left the courtroom by saying, "I will not kill myself. I'm not suicidal." As you can tell, he's a very, he's got his head screwed on. He went on an alleged hunger strike, drinking water for a few days before he was then released pending an appeal. He believes himself some kind of martyr, by the way. I can promise you this, he is not a martyr. The producers of the TV show Empire and the network Fox confirmed that while the show had been renewed for a 6th season, no, Smollett's character, no. He actually had an extended option for season 6, but thankfully he was easy to remove. Now in 2022, when he was sentenced and then released only 6 days later, he had to sign a $150,000 bond prior to his release. He went on to become more of a director type, appearing at various award shows of, let's say, certain types of categories, him believing that he still had that kind of presence. To me, he's in that ballpark of Amber Heard, somebody who should not be seen or heard at this point. And no, there's no video planned on Amber Heard. There's no point. She has absolutely nothing to contribute to any space she inhabits. We now skip ahead to the 21st of November 2024, because Jussie Smalltits' lawyers have continued to work on an appeal for more than 2 years. They argued he should not have been charged again in 2020 after the charges had been dropped by a Cook County State Attorney's Office in exchange for community service the year before. Now that argument is flawed. It's flawed because that deal came from somebody who had, vested interests in Jussie Smalltits. Because of that conflict of interest, the deal had to be removed and a different attorney, yes, state attorney, that's it, had to be introduced, right? That's what had to happen. The conflict of interest was bad. So the deal had to be removed and it had to come back. The original deal and the whole trial and any kind of claim of the past was never done with prejudice or without prejudice. There was nothing there saying they couldn't, and there was no risk of double jeopardy. Honouring the original agreement would have been in bad faith also to the police, who spent over $100,000 investigating this bogus, well, racist and homophobic claim from Jussie Smalltits, who believes himself now to be some kind of vindicated martyr hero type. I'm spoiling it a little here, folks, but don't worry, we're going to be there in a moment. The original deal should never have existed, and it only existed because of a conflict of interest. Because of that, and if you've seen the videos from the playlist, you'll know what I'm talking about. Creek. If you know that, it's important to have the context. The list, the playlist anyway, will be in the pinned comment. It's very important. So on the 21st of November, the judges in Illinois agree that it is unfair for the court not to have honoured the original agreement. Honouring the original agreement would have meant that Jussie would never have paid any of the charges the police had to pay out for, the overtime and the wasted investigation. But it also then doesn't acknowledge that Jussie lied. And at no point does he ever have to admit that. This is vitally important. Go figure it's a city that does this. Because if he does not admit he has done something wrong, he will never learn and be a better man because of it. This kind of attitude is very unhealthy. And the original deal, again, should not have existed. If anyone thinks it should have, or should have been honoured, please tell me in the comments so I can tell you you're wrong. In their judgment, they said the following: "We are aware that this case has generated significant public interest." Yeah, 5 years ago. Hell, 2 years ago. Now it's borderline a dead subject. This has flown under the radar. There's no trending for Jussie on any platform. Because in truth, he knows he's guilty and so does the world. Someone's played the legal system here exquisitely. Played the legal system rather than having justice prevail. That's important. Because a lot of people aren't interested in the truth, they're only interested in winning or losing. Truth is completely irrelevant. It's why the justice system in many countries, if not all of them, is fundamentally flawed. And many people were dissatisfied with the resolution of the original case and believed it to be unjust. Who? The vast majority, even like main celebrities now who backed him, mock the crap out of him for being a liar. He's a meme. Dave Chappelle tore him a new one for that. Nevertheless, what would be more unjust than the resolution of any one criminal case would be a holding from this court that the state was not bound to honour agreements upon which people have detrimentally relied. The context, as I've already stated, is vitally important here, because there's no version of it where they can honour an agreement that came from somebody who had a known conflict of interest. We know this, it became public, it's why they had to resign. It's why another one had to be appointed. It's why when the investigation was reopened and people properly delved into this, they realised, oh no, he's actually guilty. Anyone who's seen the videos of the trial itself, and especially the judgment, they know he's a liar. He tried to downplay it, but he's a liar, and he got done. The Ossendero brothers flayed you for it in statements. Jussie has always maintained his innocence, and that he is the victim of a crime. In the court document, the judges never addressed this. Now that's a very good point. You see, they can't say, by the way, we think you're guilty. They also can't say, by the way, we think you're innocent. They have to abide the rules of the state. And that's important. This should lead to a shake-up of the system itself to prevent conflicts of interest having these kind of nonsensical resolutions occurring, because they shouldn't occur. They shouldn't be a thing. But as we stand, the conviction of Jussie Smalltits has been overturned, and I fully expect him now to claim for damages for the 6 days he was in prison and any other emotional damage he has suffered. Perhaps even seek to have his legal fees paid for by the city. I can imagine that goes down really well with the city when they see their taxes and realise, wait, hang on, how much are we paying to Jussie? It's not justice, by the way. But I do understand in the context of the city of Chicago, and the state as a whole, where this has happened, Cook County Court, and other such places, this is vitally important to uphold their own rules, and the judges, they won't address it. If they did, they would possibly risk their own problems for stating what they believe is perspective. They also have not, at any point, said anything about the original judge who sentenced Jussie's sentencing speech. He was very clear on this. I did go through it in a video. It's quite delectable, I will admit. In truth, I'm impressed that it's finally gone through and he's had his conviction overturned. I expect there to be some more legal wranglings in the future, because if they've won the appeal, they're going to push for everything I've already said. And I'm curious to see whether or not the state will possibly consider an appeal. Whether or not an appeal would lead to anything, though, I'm not sure. Part of me thinks it wouldn't be worth it. I would rather see Jussie go back to prison and serve his entire sentence, from start to finish. And no, he does not lose 6 days for time served. The whole thing. Thank you. I would rather that, and him admit what he did, because he can't maintain innocence in this one now. The conviction may have been overturned, but we now still don't know who's guilty. And that's the problem. I've done on this channel a series called The Halls of Injustice, and one of my big things is covering a subject once it's resolved. But American cases are a problem to me. They're a problem because of this kind of semantics-based pedantic BS, where instead of seeking justice, you're trying to find a way out of it. It's why I find the whole Nick Ricata nonsense trivial, because it's less about finding out the truth, and it's more about, but can I get out of it, without having to prove the innocence or the guilt. I find that tragic. And in truth, with Jussie, this is not a good look for him. It really isn't. And many people will, when this finally gets a bit more attention, they will point out he hasn't been proven innocent. In fact, everyone knows he's guilty, because when it went to a courtroom, he was found guilty. Straight up, he was found guilty. He has skipped a step and gone, but this, therefore that doesn't exist. Mercifully, we can't erase the past. So the world will always know that Juicy, is a guilty man. The world will always know that, and his career will never get to where it once was. The conviction being overturned does not change it when, and if you have an IQ over 1, so Jussie and Jussie supporters and family, not you, bothers to look at this and go, so you didn't prove your innocence then. That's cute,